The radio crackled again, just static. Always static. Captain Eliza Monroe sat hunched in the rusted communications room of Outpost Echo, the last operational human relay station in what was once northern Montana. A cold wind rattled the broken window panes, but inside, silence ruled, except for that cursed hiss of dead air. Eliza adjusted the dial with a steady hand, her calloused fingers numb from the draft. She'd done this every night for the last 2 weeks, tuning into frequencies across the spectrum, desperate to find something, anything. Every evening began the same, hope. And ended the same, static. Until tonight. At 2:19 hours, something shifted. Beneath the static came a soft, rhythmic blip, like Morse code, but older, distorted. Eliza froze. Her ears had grown used to the empty, soulless buzz of white noise. This was different. "Private Kane," she barked, spinning her chair around. The young soldier stumbled and moments later, half asleep, rifle slung across his chest. "Ma'am? Wake the others. Tell them I found something. And bring me the old decoder. Now." By the time Kane returned with the battered decoder unit, the rest of the skeleton crew, 5 soldiers, 3 civilians, had gathered in the dimly lit room, eyes wide with anticipation. Hope was a dangerous thing in dead America. But it was also fuel. And right now, they were starving for it. Eliza fed the signal through the decoder, watching as lines of fractured code scrolled across the small, flickering screen. It wasn't just noise. It was structured. Intentional. She scribbled the translated message on a torn piece of map. "To any survivors, the North is not lost. There is a way through. Coordinates follow." And then, silence. "What the hell does that mean?" murmured Dr. Celine Park, the outpost's lead medic and former cryptographer. Eliza stared at the paper. Her heart pounded with a mix of dread and determination. "It means there's something out there. Someone out there. And they want us to find them." "But the North's a wasteland," Kane said. "Everyone knows that. It went dark 2 years ago. No comms, no traffic. Just undead roaming icefields. Which makes it the perfect place to hide," Eliza countered. "If you had the tech, the people, the resources, you'd want to be where no one dares go." The room fell into a heavy silence. Outside, a distant howl echoed through the night, human or inhuman, it was impossible to say anymore. "Do we know the source?" Celine asked. Eliza nodded. "Signal came from grid sector Delta 19. Near the collapsed hydroelectric plant." "Suicide run," Kane muttered. "Maybe," Eliza agreed. "But if there's a real safe zone up there, a real beacon, it changes everything." Celine crossed her arms. "What if it's a trap? Bait to lure survivors in and wipe them out? We've seen that tactic before." Eliza stood slowly, her boots creaking against the concrete floor. "That's a risk." But the message didn't come from the usual frequencies. It came from Cold War infrastructure, buried systems, decades-old encryption. Someone went to a lot of trouble to send this. One of the civilians, a quiet engineer named Liam, stepped forward. "If someone's using old military tech, they could be operating from a secure facility. Pre-fall installations." "Exactly," Eliza said. "We're heading north at dawn." Murmurs of protest rippled through the group. Eliza raised a hand to silence them. "We have 5 hours to prep. No debate. This could be the first real chance we've had in years." Celine bit her lip, clearly torn. "And if we never come back? Then we die trying to give humanity a future," Eliza replied. The plan was simple: travel light, stay fast, avoid the main roads. They'd take 2 vehicles and enough gear for a 5-day mission. Anything more would slow them down and attract the wrong kind of attention. By 7 o'clock, Outpost Echo was nearly empty, left in the care of a single comms tech who volunteered to stay behind and keep the signal alive. The others, armed and armored, loaded into the 2 armored jeeps, engines rumbling to life beneath the morning frost. Eliza sat in the lead jeep, her eyes locked on the northwestern horizon, where snow met smoke. "Let's find out if the dead are the only ones left up there," she said. And with that, they rolled into the white mist, unaware that something was already watching from the treeline. Not undead. Not human. Something else. Something waiting. Part 2 coming next, Snowblind Shadows. Would you like me to continue with Part 2 right now? By the third hour into the northern push, the landscape had already begun to change. Trees stood like skeletons against the backdrop of thick fog and falling snow. The road, once a cracked ribbon of asphalt, had vanished beneath a treacherous layer of ice and half-frozen mud. Eliza gripped the steering wheel tighter as the Jeep bounced over a mound of debris. "We're entering the ice shelf," Liam said from the back seat, flipping through a wrinkled map. "About 20 clicks from the hydroelectric plant." Kane looked out the side window, rifle resting in his lap. 20 clicks in this terrain might as well be 100. The convoy moved slowly, the second vehicle following close, its lights ghostly in the swirling whiteout. Eliza glanced at the radio. It had gone silent again. The signal had ended abruptly back at the outpost, and no further message had followed. She didn't like it. "Keep your eyes sharp," she said, her voice low. "We're not just dealing with walkers anymore. Something's different." And it was. They hadn't seen a single undead since crossing into the ice shelf. That wasn't normal. Usually by now, they'd be fending off packs, slow movers at first, then faster ones drawn by engine noise or human scent. But here, it was empty. Dead quiet. "We should have seen at least a dozen by now," Kane said, echoing her thoughts. "They're out there," Eliza muttered. "They're just not showing themselves." The silence was almost worse than an attack. They stopped to scout the terrain just after midday. Liam and Kane moved ahead with caution while Eliza stayed back, using her scope to survey the horizon. Through the lens, the world was flat and gray, until something flickered in the distance. A reflection. Metallic. Brief. She adjusted the scope. There it was again, glinting sunlight off a shape near a collapsed snowdrift. A man-made object, maybe a solar panel or part of a relay. Or a trap. "Kane," she called over the comms, "you see that glint at your 10 o'clock? A moment passed. Static, then, negative, wait. "Yeah, I see it." "Check it, but stay low." Kane moved forward cautiously, weaving between the frozen trees. Liam kept watch, rifle steady. Suddenly, Kane ducked. "Movement," he hissed into the mic. Eliza's heart stopped. "Confirm?" she asked. "Yeah. 2 figures. Slow. Not walkers. At least, I don't think they are." Liam added, "They're not shambling. Looks like patrol behavior. Get back. Now." The 2 scouts returned quickly, breaths fogging in the cold air. The group formed a quick perimeter as Eliza reviewed what Kane had seen. "They were wearing mismatched gear," he said. "Some kind of mix between winter camo and salvaged armor. Didn't look infected. But they were armed." "Human scavengers?" Liam offered. "Maybe. But there was discipline in their movements. Not just wandering." Eliza nodded grimly. "Could be survivors guarding something. Or a rogue faction. Either way, we don't make contact unless we have to." As they continued, the path narrowed into an icy ridge flanked by cliffs on both sides. The convoy slowed further, too exposed, too many blind corners. That's when it happened. A sudden, piercing shriek echoed from above. "Eyes up!" Eliza shouted, slamming on the brakes. Figures dropped from the cliffside, fast, feral, and wrong. They weren't walkers. They were runners, zombies, but twisted further by exposure and hunger. Their limbs were wrapped in frozen tatters, their skin cracked like porcelain, revealing blackened muscle beneath. And they were smart, too smart. One landed on the hood of the second Jeep, smashing the windshield with its frozen fists. The driver screamed. Another crashed into the snow beside Eliza's door, reaching up with jagged claws. "Engage," she yelled. Gunfire tore through the ridge. Muzzle flashes lit up the snow as Kane opened fire from the passenger side. Eliza jammed the barrel of her pistol against the runner's jaw and pulled the trigger, once, twice. Blood, dark and half-frozen, splattered the glass. Liam screamed from the back. A runner had torn the rear door off and was dragging one of the civilians into the snow. "No!" Eliza leapt out and tackled the creature, driving her blade through its eye. The civilian was alive, barely. Eliza pulled them free as Kane provided cover fire. "Fall back. Into the trees," she ordered. The group scrambled off the ridge, abandoning the second jeep. The sound of shrieking, snarling runners followed them into the forest. They didn't stop until they reached a cave near a frozen riverbank. They collapsed inside, panting, bleeding, shaken. "That wasn't normal," Liam gasped. "They weren't just attacking, they were coordinated." Eliza said nothing at first. Then she pulled out the decoder and turned it on. The signal was back. Delta 19. Proceed with caution. They are not what they seem. Part 3 coming next, the facility beneath the ice. Snow fell in thick curtains outside the cave entrance, muffling the sound of the wind, and the world. The survivors huddled near a makeshift fire, the flames flickering against the damp rock walls. Blood had frozen in streaks on their clothing. No one had spoken for 10 minutes. The silence said enough. Eliza broke it. "We lost Reynolds in the second jeep. But we're still alive." "For now," Liam muttered, pressing a bloodied cloth to a civilian's leg. "What the hell were those things? They weren't like the ones we've fought before. They planned that ambush." Dr. Park, face pale but hands steady, examined a chunk of frozen tissue from one of the fallen runners. "Neurological patterns are different. Motor functions enhanced. These things have been changed. Engineered, maybe." "Engineered?" Kane echoed, his tone sharp. Eliza pulled the old decoder out of her coat. The signal came back. "Just before we escaped the ridge. It warned us. It knew about them." Celine leaned forward. "Read it again." Eliza adjusted the frequency until the message replayed, distorted but clear enough. Delta 19. Proceed with caution. They are not what they seem. Kane paced, restless. So whoever's sending these messages knew about the evolved infected. Knew they were here. And they're trying to warn us, Eliza said. That means they're either trying to help, or bait us further in. Celine frowned. There's one more possibility. They created them. And now they've lost control. The fire popped loudly, sending sparks toward the stone ceiling. No one spoke for a long moment. Eliza unfolded the crinkled map and laid it out. The signal triangulates near the hydroelectric plant. If there's a facility, underground, off-grid, it would be there. Liam nodded slowly. The plant was partially government-owned before the fall. Rumors say it housed more than just turbines, some classified research zones, secure bunkers. Kane scoffed. So now we're storming a ghost facility crawling with intelligent freaks? Eliza met his gaze. We've come too far to turn back. There's something here worth dying for. Or living for. By dawn, the group had left the cave. They moved through the frozen forest on foot, weapons ready, eyes scanning the white void around them. The cold was a predator, nipping at fingers and toes. The terrain was worsening, deep snowdrifts, black ice, hidden ravines. The plant finally appeared by mid-afternoon. It rose like a frozen monolith from the valley floor, half buried in snow and ice. Tall concrete towers jutted skyward, choked by frost and decay. A chain-link fence, torn in places and reinforced with makeshift barriers, surrounded the perimeter. Liam adjusted his goggles. Looks abandoned. That's what they want us to think, Kane muttered. Eliza held up a fist. The group dropped low. A low mechanical hum vibrated through the ground. Subtle, but present. There's power, she said. Not full grid. Auxiliary, maybe internal generators. Celine pointed to a side entrance, half covered in collapsed snow. There. Maintenance tunnel. If we can clear the way, we might get inside undetected. They began to dig quietly, taking shifts. After an hour, they exposed the emergency hatch, rusted but intact. Liam pried it open with a crowbar. Cold air rushed out, not just from outside, but from within. Eliza slid down the ladder first. The tunnel below was narrow, lit by emergency lights glowing dim red. The air smelled of metal, oil, and something else. Like antiseptic and rot. One by one, the others followed. The tunnel fed into a larger corridor beneath the plant, walls lined with peeling hazard signs and abandoned lab gear. Computers, wires, storage lockers. It looked like the facility had been evacuated in a hurry. Papers still fluttered on the floor. Blood smeared the walls. And then the hallway opened into a large control chamber. In the center sat a single terminal, powered, blinking. Active. Eliza approached, weapon raised. She tapped a key. The screen came to life. Authorization recognized. Welcome back, Commander Monroe. Her breath caught. What? Celine whispered. Did it just? Liam stepped closer. Commander Monroe? That's your father's designation, right? He served in Northern Command? Eliza's mind reeled. Her father had disappeared during the early days of the outbreak. Rumors said he died helping to evacuate a northern research base. What is this place? Kane asked. The screen shifted. Project, Nova Vigilance. Status, compromised. Bioforge Experiment 07, containment breached. Secure lab sealed. Emergency signal in effect. Survivors, unknown. Celine leaned in. Bioforge, that's a neuroregenerative experiment. Black budget project. It was meant to rewire damaged soldiers, but they must have tested it on infected hosts. And turned them into what we saw outside, Kane muttered. The lights flickered. A loud crash echoed from deeper inside the complex. Eliza raised her rifle. We're not alone. Then the terminal blinked one last time. If you can read this, get out. Or seal the lab for good. Part 4 coming next, the lab sealed in blood. The echo of the crash still rang in their ears when the corridor lights flickered again, once, twice, then settled into a pulsing red. Warning. A low mechanical groan followed, deeper in the complex. It sounded like a door unlatching. Eliza turned toward the sound, pulse racing. Everyone gear up, she said, voice calm but tense. This facility isn't dead. It's waking up. Liam checked his sidearm, eyes darting toward the terminal. If Bioforge breached containment, that noise could mean one thing, something just got loose. Kane flicked off the safety on his rifle. Then we put it back in its cage. Or we bury it here. Dr. Park, face pale, pulled a stack of faded documents from a locker near the wall. Her gloved hands trembled as she flipped through the pages. I found a map, she said. This section is just the outer shell. The real research happened below, sub-level 3. It's sealed by 2 clearance gates. This terminal must have been a remote failsafe. Celine crouched beside her. Any mention of survivors? Park shook her head. Only test subjects. Codenamed V-types. Designed for neural retention. They weren't supposed to evolve past instinct, but if they've been trapped down there this long. They've adapted, Liam finished. Survival breeds evolution. Eliza turned toward the corridor leading deeper. We're finishing what Monroe started. We find the source, we seal it, and we stop whatever's coming up before it reaches the surface. The team moved out, every step taking them closer to the core of the nightmare. They passed more signs of panic, broken containment tanks, bullet-ridden walls, streaks of dried blood like fingers clawing for freedom. The smell of rot clung to everything, thicker now. At the first gate, Eliza swiped her encoded keycard, passed down from her father after his disappearance. To her surprise, it worked. The gate groaned open, revealing an elevator shaft with only one functional lift, half-lit and shaking. Why would this still have power? Kane muttered. Park answered, if Bioforge's AI system stayed intact, it would keep auxiliary systems online, to preserve the test data. They descended in silence. The moment the doors opened, the temperature dropped. Sublevel 3 was different. The concrete here was clean, too clean. Sterile. White tile floors stretched in all directions, eerily untouched. The lights were brighter, but the silence more suffocating. This doesn't feel abandoned, Celine whispered. Because it's not, Liam said. Motion sensors activated as they moved. Lights blinked on, one by one. A screen flickered alive on the far wall, revealing a pre-recorded video, a man in a black military coat, eyes hard and distant. Eliza's breath caught. Dad. The message began to play. If you're seeing this, the upper facility has fallen. This is Commander Everett Monroe, project supervisor for Bioforge. We made a mistake. We tried to reprogram the undead, give them purpose, a way to turn the tide of infection by using the infected as tools. But the virus evolved faster than we could predict. It merged with the neural programming. They didn't become soldiers. They became predators, with memory. He leaned forward, eyes filled with regret. They remember how to hunt. How to work together. And worst of all, they remember us. Do not attempt rescue. If you find this place, seal it. For good. The screen went black. Behind them, a loud clang rang out. Then another. They were no longer alone. From the end of the hallway, a door hissed open, and something stepped out. It had once been a man, maybe a soldier. But its body had changed, armored by sinew and reinforced bone, eyes glowing faintly red. It didn't stumble like a zombie. It walked, slowly, deliberately, with intelligence. It saw them. And it smiled. Eliza, move. Kane shouted. The team fired, rounds tearing through the air, but the creature dodged, inhumanly fast. It slammed into Kane, sending him flying into a wall. Liam rushed to drag him out of reach as Eliza laid down cover fire. Celine tossed a flash grenade. The explosion stunned the beast long enough for the group to retreat into the security corridor, slamming the door shut behind them. That thing, Park gasped, helping Kane up, that wasn't just a test subject. That was Bioforge's final prototype. A full merge. Eliza turned to the control panel. Can we still seal this level? Park hesitated. Yes, but we have to overload the auxiliary core. Manually. Liam checked the map. That's 3 rooms down. But we'll have to draw the prototype away. Eliza made a decision. I'll do it. No way, Kane groaned. You'll get torn apart. I'm the only one it recognized, she said. It smiled when it saw me. It remembers Monroe. It remembers me. Park grabbed her arm. You're not alone, Eliza. We finished this together. They moved in formation, Eliza in front, baiting the beast. The plan was reckless. Insane. But it was the only shot they had. And the monster was already hunting again. Part 5 coming next, echoes of the prototype. Eliza's boots echoed in the sterile hallway, each step drawing her closer to death, or something worse. Her breath misted in the cold, recycled air of sublevel 3, and her rifle was tight in her grip. The others flanked her, moving quietly, weapons raised, nerves fraying at the edges. Behind them, somewhere in the white corridors of the Bioforge facility, the prototype stalked the dark. He's not chasing, Kane muttered, wiping blood from his lip. Why isn't he chasing? Celine answered grimly, because it's thinking. Planning. Like it used to in life. Park studied a nearby access panel as they moved. We're almost to the auxiliary core. Once I trigger the overload sequence, we'll have 5 minutes to reach the lift before the lockdown seals everything shut. And if we're still in here? Liam asked. Then this becomes our tomb. They rounded a corner into a narrow lab filled with shattered equipment and cracked glass tanks. The smell of chemical rot made them gag. There were no bodies, but the blood smears on the walls told enough of a story. In the center of the room, a terminal blinked. Eliza crossed to it and activated the screen. A new message appeared, this one written, not spoken. You were never supposed to find this. But since you're here, finish what we failed to. Free them. End them. And don't let them reach the surface. Liam pointed to a thick steel door at the far end of the lab. That leads to the auxiliary core. Beyond that is the kill switch. Kane moved toward it, but stopped. The temperature dropped suddenly. The hallway behind them fell silent. Then came the sound, metal scraping on tile. A slow, deliberate drag. Eliza turned just in time to see the prototype emerge from the shadows. Its skin was cracked like dried mud, but its movements were fluid, its eyes alive with a twisted intelligence. It looked at her, only her. Recognition shimmered behind its gaze. Eliza Monroe, it whispered, voice warped but intelligible. Daughter of the traitor. Park gasped. It speaks? The prototype stepped forward. We remember. All of us. Every experiment, every scream. We became more than what you tried to make us. And now, we become the future. Kane raised his rifle. Future's got no place for you, freak. The creature moved faster than any of them could react. It slammed Kane against the wall again, claws sinking into his armor. Liam opened fire, spraying bullets that barely slowed it. Celine hurled a concussive grenade, blasting the creature off its feet long enough for Park to drag Kane into the core chamber. Eliza! Celine shouted. We have to go. But Eliza didn't move. She stared at the prototype, stunned. It wasn't just recognizing her. It was connected to her. My father, she said slowly. You were part of his team. The prototype's eyes narrowed. He gave the order. Eliza's heart broke in her chest. Liam grabbed her arm. There's no saving what's left in that thing. They retreated into the auxiliary core chamber and sealed the door. Thick blast-proof locks slammed into place just as the prototype threw itself at the entrance. The whole room shook. Inside the chamber, the lights flickered again, blue this time. Power surged through the old conduits. Park slid into position at the main terminal and began typing. Eliza, I need you, she said urgently. Eliza joined her, fingers flying over the keys, decrypting the last firewall blocking the overload sequence. My father encoded it. Biometric and pattern match logic. It's keyed to his DNA, and mine. The terminal accepted the sequence. A timer began to tick down, 5:00. 4:59. Park looked up. We have to move. Now. The door behind them groaned as metal bent inward. The prototype was forcing its way in. The team raced back toward the elevator. Celine supported Kane, limping badly. Liam covered their rear, shotgun blasting at another creature that had emerged from the labs, a failed prototype, twisted and unstable. They're waking up, Liam shouted. The whole level's coming alive. Eliza reached the elevator first, slamming the button. The old machinery groaned to life. The doors opened slowly, too slowly. The prototype rounded the corner. Bloodied. Burning. But still standing. Liam turned and fired again, emptying his clip. Come on. The others pushed into the elevator. Eliza stood at the threshold, rifle raised, locking eyes with the creature once more. You remember him, she said quietly. Then remember this. She hurled an incendiary charge at its feet and dove into the lift. The doors slammed shut as the prototype screamed, a sound not of pain, but fury. The lift groaned upward, seconds ahead of the facility's final heartbeat. Behind them, the sublevel exploded in a muffled roar. The ground shook. Lights above flickered and died. And just like that, Bioforge was gone. Or so they thought. Part 6 coming next, what survived the fire? The elevator doors creaked open with a mechanical whine, revealing the shattered remnants of the upper facility. The blast from sublevel 3 had collapsed half the complex, twisting metal into grotesque shapes and covering the floor with rubble. Smoke hung heavy in the air, and the emergency lighting pulsed dimly, casting the survivors in red shadows. Eliza stumbled out first, coughing from the smoke. Kane limped beside her, supported by Celine. Park clutched a salvaged data drive to her chest like it was sacred. Liam was last to emerge, eyes locked on the hole where the elevator shaft had once been. "Do you think it survived?" he asked, voice hoarse. "No one survives that," Eliza replied, but her tone lacked certainty. Park lowered the drive. "We overloaded the core. The explosion would have flash incinerated anything biological. Even those, enhanced. But what if it wasn't just biological anymore?" Celine muttered, scanning the dark. "What if it was something else?" Silence fell. The possibility was too real to ignore. "We don't stay here," Eliza said finally. "We get back to the outpost. We deliver what we found. Maybe there's something in that drive worth saving." They pushed through the ruins, following the emergency trail lights. Rain began to fall, mixing with ash and blood, turning the rubble into black sludge. Above, the sky was a bruised shade of gray. Not a bird in sight. After nearly an hour of climbing over collapsed walls and crawling through broken ducts, the team reached the surface-level exit. The heavy vault door had been thrown open by the force of the blast, revealing the dead landscape of the outside world. It wasn't what they remembered. The sky was darker. Quieter. The undead were gone from the nearby field, no shuffling hordes, no distant moans. Just silence. Celine stepped outside, rifle up. "Where is everyone?" "Maybe the explosion scared them off," Kane said. "No," Liam muttered. "They're never scared." Something else happened. Park knelt and brushed her hand over the muddy ground. "Tracks, lots of them. They moved, in formation." Eliza narrowed her eyes. "They marched?" Before anyone could answer, static hissed from Liam's radio. The first sound in hours. He lifted it quickly, adjusting the dial. The signal grew stronger, clearer, then a voice emerged. "Monroe, repeat, this is North Point Station." "Eliza Monroe, do you copy?" "We received the signal." "You triggered it. That means you found it. If you're alive, come north." The group froze. Park stared at Eliza. "They're still broadcasting." They knew about Bioforge. They were waiting for someone to activate the signal. Eliza took the radio. "This is Eliza Monroe. We made it out. The core's destroyed, but the prototype, it might not have died with the fire. We're bringing the data. We need extraction. Coordinates are..." The voice interrupted. "No time. We're under siege. The infected here, they're different. Smarter. Faster. It's like, they're organized." Static cut in again, and then, another voice. "Not from the radio. From the trees. We are." The group spun around. From the mist, they emerged. Not shambling, not groaning, moving. 6 figures in tattered uniforms, their eyes glowing faintly red. One wore the remains of a Bioforge technician coat. Another had dog tags hanging from its half-torn neck. These weren't just infected. They were sentient. Kane raised his gun, but Eliza stopped him. "Don't fire." "Not yet." The one in front stepped forward. He had a voice, broken, but clear. "You lit the beacon. You sent the call. Now they'll come for all of you." Park whispered, "They're networked." The signal didn't just activate a radio. It triggered a kind of recall. A link. Eliza kept her voice steady. "What do you want?" The leader tilted his head. "To be remembered. Not as monsters, but as what you made us. The future." Then he turned and walked back into the fog. The others followed. No attack. No blood. Just a message. Liam holstered his weapon. "We need to leave. Now." They moved fast, heading toward the coordinates transmitted by North Point. With each step, the weight of what they'd discovered settled heavier. The undead were no longer wandering blindly. They were listening. Waiting. And organizing. As they climbed the ridge overlooking the northern path, Eliza looked back. The facility was gone, buried in ash and ruin. But the fear remained. What if this wasn't the end? Celine asked. "It's not," Eliza said. "It was the beginning." Part 7 coming next, The Northern Silence. The sky grew darker as the team trudged deeper into the wildlands, following the faint coordinates of North Point Station. Trees loomed tall and dead, their branches gnarled like skeletal fingers reaching for the last remnants of sunlight. A cold wind howled through the forest, making the shattered leaves whisper warnings no one could decipher. They moved in silence. Not because they wanted to, but because it was safer. The infected no longer groaned or shuffled like before. Now, they listened. They watched. And they planned. "I don't like this," Kane muttered, holding his side. His wound was bleeding again. "This place feels hollow. No birds. No bugs. Nothing's alive out here," Liam added, glancing around. "It's like something drained the forest dry." "We're close," Park said, checking her device. "Less than half a mile to North Point's perimeter. But the signal's getting weaker." "That doesn't make sense," Eliza said. "It should be stronger. Unless..." Celine finished the thought for her. "Unless something's interfering." The trees broke, revealing a stretch of broken highway buried in ash. Craters lined the road, remnants of long-forgotten airstrikes. The skeleton of a crashed military drone lay half-buried in a ditch, its camera still faintly blinking red. Park tapped her earpiece, then held up a hand. "Wait. There's something ahead. Movement. Heat signatures, small. Controlled. Not a horde." They crouched low, crawling to a ridge overlooking what remained of North Point Station. What they saw wasn't a fortress. It was a graveyard. Buildings lay half-collapsed, their walls scorched and broken. The outer perimeter was a mess of barbed wire, sandbags, and abandoned gun emplacements. But what stood out most wasn't the destruction, it was the stillness. Dozens of bodies littered the base. Not turned. Just dead. Too clean. Too organized. Celine scanned through her scope. "I see uniforms. North Point's defense team. All down. No signs of struggle." "Executed," Kane whispered. Then a sound crackled in their radios. "Come inside. Quickly." Eliza froze. That voice. Park confirmed it. Same frequency as before. Another message followed. "You're being watched. The ones outside, they're waiting for you to come down the hill. You're part of the equation now." Eliza glanced to the tree line. For the briefest moment, she saw a glint. A pair of eyes watching from beneath a collapsed canopy. Then they were gone. Liam gritted his teeth. "We going fast. No splitting up. We make it to the control bunker, lock it down, and figure out who sent that message." The team descended the slope cautiously, weapons ready. The silence was deafening. As they approached the base's front gate, the voice returned. "Bunker is beneath the comms tower. Go. Now." They rushed inside. Still no movement. Still no undead. The comms tower was cracked but standing. Beneath it, a reinforced hatch lay partially buried in dirt and debris. Kane and Liam dug it out while Celine and Park kept watch. The hatch creaked open. Inside, stairs led into darkness. They went down. The bunker was still functional. Lights flickered on as they entered, revealing a small control room with ancient monitors, stacked data tapes, and a single operating terminal. A man stood behind the glass of the far chamber. Alive. "Lock the door," he said without turning around. Eliza stared at him through the thick window. His face was weathered. His beard gray. But his eyes. "You're Dr. Elias Monroe," he said flatly. "Yes. Your father." Eliza took a step back. "But you're dead." "I was supposed to be. But Bioforge never lets its architects go so easily." Park's hands trembled. "You've been here this whole time? Monitoring everything?" "I sent the signal," he said. "Because they were coming. Not the infected. The awakened. The ones we created in silence." Liam pointed his rifle. "Why not warn anyone sooner?" "Because no one would have listened," Dr. Monroe said coldly. "They see the infected as mindless tools of destruction. But some of them, just a few, were different. They remembered. They learned. And now?" Eliza asked. "Now they move with purpose," he said. "The prototype you faced in Bioforge, he wasn't alone. He was one of 12. The room went still. 12? Celine repeated. "They were the Alpha class," Dr. Monroe said. "Designed to adapt. Communicate. Lead. And now, they've found each other again. The signal reactivated them." Park looked pale. "And they're linked?" "Worse," Monroe said. "They're unified. A shared mind. A network." A new sound echoed through the bunker. Scraping. Claws on concrete. Celine raised her weapon. "They found us." Dr. Monroe looked at Eliza. "You want to fix this? Then we bury this place. All of it." "But you'll die," she said. "I already did," he whispered. Above them, the base shook as something massive began its approach. Part 8 coming next, the last broadcast. Would you like me to continue with the final part now? The tremors grew stronger. Dust rained from the bunker's ceiling. Lights flickered as if sensing the presence of something unnatural above. The ground shuddered under the weight of what approached. "They're not just coming," Park said, staring at the seismic monitor. "They're already here." Eliza looked through the glass at her father, Dr. Elias Monroe. He stood calm, resigned, as if he had been waiting for this moment since the day the Alpha class was created. "They followed the signal," he said. "Just like I planned." "You planned this?" Kane barked, clutching his side as he staggered against the wall. "You brought them here?" Dr. Monroe turned to face them fully. "To end it. The only way to stop a networked species is to sever the link. All Alpha-class subjects are bound by the pulse frequency embedded in this bunker. If I overload the transmitter, I can burn the network out from the inside." "You'll wipe their connection," Celine realized. "But at what cost?" Dr. Monroe offered a sad smile. "This station will burn. And anyone still inside it." Another quake rocked the facility. From above, a chilling sound echoed through the corridors, a chorus of voices, not moaning but chanting, in unison. "They're evolving," Liam whispered. "That sound, it's not random." Park nodded slowly. "They're sinking. That's a war song." Eliza turned to her team. "We need to get the data out. That drive might be the only way someone can stop this from spreading." Dr. Monroe nodded. "There's a reinforced escape tunnel 2 levels down. Old evac route. Still intact." "You're coming with us," Eliza said. "No," he replied, stepping back toward the main console. "Someone needs to stay and activate the overload manually. And I have sins to answer for." Eliza reached for the glass, her hand trembling. "You abandoned us. You let the world burn. I tried to build salvation, he said. But I was wrong. I built extinction instead. From above, something massive slammed into the ceiling. Metal groaned. Cracks spidered across the bunker walls. Go, he shouted. Now. Reluctantly, Eliza turned away. Liam and Celine pulled Kane along while Park guided them through the emergency maintenance hatch. The hallway beyond was narrow, lined with pipes and old conduit, but intact. Each footstep was matched by a rumble from behind them. In the control room, Dr. Monroe powered up the transmitter. The screens around him lit with biometric data, 12 red dots, pulsing in time. The Alpha class was here. Complete. Let's see if you're as invincible as they said, he murmured, activating the override sequence. Meanwhile, Eliza and the team reached the final security door. A red light blinked above it. Locked, Park muttered. I can bypass it, but it'll take time. We don't have time, Liam said, aiming his rifle at the lock. No. Park held him back. If you blast it, the tunnel could collapse. Celine glanced back. We're out of options. Hurry. Above them, a shriek like a modem gone wrong filled the air, glitchy, mechanical, inhuman. The sound of a connected mind unraveling. Back in the bunker, Dr. Monroe initiated the overload. 10%. 22%. 47%. The temperature climbed. Sparks erupted from the mainframe. A voice filtered through the intercom. Why destroy what you created? Dr. Monroe froze. The voice was not mechanical. It was human. But it belonged to one of them. You remember me? He asked. We remember everything. Then came the final choice. 87%. 98%. 100%. Dr. Monroe pressed the last key. The screen turned white. Above, the Alpha class screamed. At the tunnel door, the lock disengaged with a hiss. Go! Park yelled. The group stumbled into the emergency tunnel just as the base behind them erupted in flame. The explosion wasn't loud, it was deep, like the earth itself groaning as something terrible was cut from its roots. A firestorm chased them down the passage. They sprinted, coughing, blinded by smoke and heat. Then, light. They burst into the open, collapsing onto the forest floor as the tunnel behind them collapsed in on itself. A massive plume of smoke rose where North Point Station had once stood. Silence. Kane lay gasping. Park clutched the data drive. Celine sat staring at the smoke. Liam scanned the treeline, still expecting something to emerge. Eliza stood last, watching the smoke climb into the sky. He did it, she said quietly. He stopped them. For now, Liam added. But what if some of the Alphas weren't there? Eliza nodded. Then this isn't over. Park held up the drive. There's still a future. With this, we can warn others. Maybe even stop this before it spreads. Celine looked to the horizon. Where do we go now? Eliza stared north, eyes hard. To anyone still listening. We tell them what happened. What's coming? She raised the radio. This is Eliza Monroe. If you're hearing this, you need to prepare. The signal wasn't just a message, it was a map. And others will follow it. Find shelter. Build walls. And whatever you do, don't let them in. The wind carried her words into the fading light. Far away, something else listened. And smiled. White heavy checkmark completed, the signal from the north, a hidden message in the chaos of Dead America, Zombies audiobook. Let me know if you want thumbnails, episode descriptions, or titles for each part.